chanter, I guess we will call him, James Woodhead. He is a teacher and he is also a KFTC organizer, and we're going to hear a little bit from him.
Thank you. So I'm a representative for the Central Kentucky chapter of Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, a member organizer with the American Federation of Teachers, and a special education teacher at a majority minority school where over 90% of our students are considered to be economically disadvantaged. Collectively, we condemn the growing racist, misogynistic, homophobic, transphobic, and anti-immigrant rhetoric targeting our schools and communities with increasing threats of discrimination, criminalization, and deportation. We demand that policymakers stop harmful, divisive legislation that is intended to uphold barriers of inequity and perpetuate structural violence in our public schools, in our universities, and in our workplaces. Our schools and our communities should be protected sanctuaries both for learning and for living. Unfortunately, it's no coincidence that Kentucky currently ranks 6th in the nation for both poverty and incarceration rates. Increasingly draconian legislation is criminalizing working families and growing the school-to-prison pipeline. In Fayette County, Central Kentucky KFTC opposed Project 2025 being rolled out prior to the second election of Donald Trump. We have advocated for people's budgets to support working families and actively opposed our local tax dollars being invested in systems of harm. This includes local investments in controversial technology that abuses warrantless surveillance, creating infrastructure accessible to ICE, and supports mass deportation of families and enabled law enforcement to potentially target protesters and journalists. While more and more of our public money is being allocated for systems of harm and life-affirming social programs are being slashed, disparities will unfortunately continue to grow until we create enough demand for power to concede. With a public policy agenda that hoards access to housing, food, healthcare, and education, the current power structure in the state and country, led by billionaires, is content with marginalized communities, immigrants, and working-class white people to either be fighting each other for limited resources, locked up, or dead. We must recognize this attack on the majority of Kentuckians for what it is and organize together. At KFTC, we are guided by Black, Indigenous, people of color, and impacted communities. History shows that uplifting marginalized classes uplifts all working families, including working-class, able-bodied white males. It's especially no coincidence that billionaires are attacking public education, the great equalizer. Kentucky's working families will be disproportionately harmed by the federal cuts to public education to create tax cuts for the wealthy. Over 70% of Kentucky's schools rely on federal funds for low-income students, and 89% of Kentucky schools rely on federal funds for free student meals. Both Fayette AFT and Central Kentucky KFTC have lobbied our school board to budget for universal school meals, while legislators are proposing doing away with funding for child nutrition and replacing it with child labor. 1 month ago, both AFT and KFTC were in the streets to oppose the dismantling of the U.S. Department of Education and protect our kids from federal budget cuts. Later that week, KFTC was in City Hall demanding no cuts to diversity, equity, and inclusion. In Fayette County, $40 million in federal education funding is in jeopardy. Our schools are actively preparing for a plan that includes downsizing teachers, staff, and resources. At our inner city schools that serve many of Lexington's most impacted families, cuts were announced last week to teachers and staff for the upcoming school year. A number of those students are among the 1,001 students in Fayette County that were also houseless as of last week. Central Kentucky KFTC has lobbied for a tenants' bill of rights and rental assistance funding. AFTC has put out a call to action to house our students. Yet Fayette County received no grant funding for houseless education assistance this year, and we fear that staff and resources to support this program will be at risk. Together, across education, labor, and civil rights movements, we must fight for all students in our Commonwealth to receive a quality public education, regardless of race, class, gender, or ability. The days of Jim Crow, disability discrimination in public education must stay in the past. Now is the time to organize. Billionaires are taking everything they can get their hands on, but working families are fighting back. Boots are needed on the ground, not only in the streets, but also organizing in our schools, in our workplaces, and our neighborhoods. We must recognize that our struggles and movements are intersectional. There is power in solidarity. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Absolutely.